Hello and welcome. I am Shannon Elizabeth Eastman. I am the host of the Work That Matters podcast, conversations that take place at the intersection of personal and business growth. I am in my office as usual, having this conversation with my guest. I'm in Dublin, Ireland. I am looking out at what is a very soft and gray afternoon. My guest is calling in from Texas, USA. Dr. Dave Tuck is joining me for a conversation that, quite frankly, I could talk about all day, every day. And this is the idea that everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. And Dr. Dave Tuck is joining me for a conversation where he reflects on a time in his life, it's probably 10 years ago now, where in his business, he got punched in the face, and why, with hindsight, he saw or perceived that to be coming about, how he handled it, the circumstances around it. I don't mean to laugh. It's a brilliant story. I mean, God bless him. And we talk about the blind spots and the symptoms and the best practice really in your journey as a business owner. I think we also explore the different reactions and responses that we have to getting punched in the face, metaphorically speaking, of course. It's a great conversation, one that I have no doubt you will absolutely be able to relate to. Dr. Dave has about 26 years now, I think, of experience working in the health and wellness industry. He is a personal wellness consultant. We don't cover it in this particular conversation, but I remember at one point, Dr. Dave was sharing his story about why he got into this particular field. And I believe it was an accident, a car accident that he had at 17. And there was some extraordinary pain, as you can imagine, that would come with that. But this need or this desire to remove the pain from his body. And I believe at the time, he had sought out some advice from the physicians or the people that were taking care of him in hospital, and they offered him a prescription. And I remember hearing him say at age 17, he was looking at this prescription and going, how is this going to heal my body as opposed to just manage the pain in my body? And it was at that point that he decided he would explore and research how the body works and pain and healing. And I'm not going to say how long ago that was, but let's go, that was a little bit more than 26 years ago. So he has been, from my position, he's dedicated his life to understanding the connection between mind-body, in later years, mind-body and purpose in life. He has 2 practices over in Texas. He does online consults with entrepreneurs looking to connect purpose, profit, perpetuity. I've heard him talk about that session that he offers. And I brought him on because he has a really powerful story about what happens when you jump off a cliff to build that proverbial plane as you're free falling through the abyss, only for your parachute not to open. You know, who are you in that moment? And how do you respond in that moment? And we all have our own version of free falling and things not going to plan. I don't mean to laugh, but I can relate. Oh, so well, I can relate. So it is my intention that you get a few laughs out of this. You get a sense that your free fall off your own cliff was not in isolation. We're all there with you. We've all got those bumps and bruises. But I would really love for you to either validate or consider, the distinction to be made between what is a business or project that is only got your head invested in it versus, those parts of your business or your business where it is a heart. I mean, it is your life's work. It is your heart song, and how we respond differently to crisis when our heart's invested in something versus when our heart just can't be bothered to do it. So enjoy. If you haven't heard of Dr. Dave before this conversation, it is my pleasure to introduce you to him. You will find him in the links associated with this podcast in the description. You can also Google Dr. Dave Tuck. And Welcome, Dr. Dave. It is great to have you here.
Well, thank you, Shannon. It's a pleasure to be here. Always love our conversations and connections. So I'm really thrilled to be a part of this process and this podcast.
Our conversation that led to this exact moment that we're talking about now, I think is inspiring, of course, but riveting and relevant. We're talking about crisis, business owners, entrepreneurs, and those moments when you fall off the cliff and your parachute doesn't open.
I think all entrepreneurs can relate at some point. You know, as you're building your business and or building your ideas, you're going to run into some crisis moments. You know, some chaos, some confusion. You know, and that's all part of the learning to get to the next level of leadership and business success. You know, we all go through it. So, you know, some stories are funnier than others, I'm sure. So,
I have been laughing all day because, of course, you know, we'd swapped some emails, and this conversation in particular that I really love that you put forward, and fair play to you for putting it forward. It's looking at a time in our life when we perceive the plates are spinning well. You know, we're kind of maybe on fast forward, maybe moving too fast. I'm reflecting on my own previous experience and not aware of the blind spots, not aware of the importance of bringing respect and focus into all areas of the business. I mean, who knows that when they're first setting out anyway? But I want to hand this over to you. I'd like you to tell us your story. You're a successful doctor. You've got a practice over in Texas. You've just hired another doctor yesterday. Well done for that. This is COVID-19 times, so fair play to you. You have an incredible wife. You've been happily married for 10 years, but it wasn't always that way. So take me back to that moment in your business where you were invited to grow up, learn.
yeah, that's a great way to put it. The universe always will invite you to grow up. And it'll point out those blind spots. So for me, I started my practice 27 years ago, and I've had 2 or 3 others since. And during that time, it was around 10 years ago when I was actually just dating my wife. And just to say, she lived in London at the time where I was living in North Texas. So we were having this long distance relationship. And so I went to go.
Years ago was 2010.
Yes. So
crisis was going on then. 2010.
What's it? Yeah. Around 2010. Yeah, 2010. And so we met at a conference, and so we started dating. A Skype relationship really is what it was. And so, you know, I was the quote successful doctor with the practices and doing well as I thought. And I was actually went to visit her, and you know, as a part of my courting and wooing and saying, hey, well, I've got a successful practice, and we'll, you know, painting the vision of what we could do together in life, you know. And so as I was actually at her house about to leave, it was the day before I was about to leave, I get a call from my CPA, and he says,
you in London
hey,
at the time?
I was in London at the time, yes.
Visiting her,
Oxford, actually, at her house. Yes. Really trying to impress her with my successful practice and, you know, whatever. So got a call from the CPA, and he says, hey, Doc.
What's the CPA? Your
accountant.
Yeah.
And so he says, hey, you don't have enough money to make your payroll or you pay your bills. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Plenty of money in the bank, isn't there? And this is where my blind spot was delegating this task to others without knowing actually what was going on in my business. I mean, we were super successful, but that was the blind spot. And so I was confused. And I said, what do you mean you don't have any money? He said, yeah, you don't have any money. We can't make your payroll. You better get home. And so, and of course, Tanya was sitting there, and I was like going, you know, I just started sweating, freaking out as one would, thinking, oh my God, what has happened here? How, you know, what's going on? And actually had to borrow some money from her to get back home, which is super, super embarrassing and degrading. And I was like, and which was a really beautiful moment for us, because, you know, if it showed me one thing, was it wasn't about the money in our relationship. It's about, you know, we had a deeper connection in that. So, but for me, as this successful doctor who had all this stuff together, and really seeing that I actually don't have my stuff together in that area of my life was a really eye opener for me, and such a huge lesson for me as an entrepreneur, as a business owner about, finding those blind spots and realizing that if you don't have your eye on the blind spots and really get those, then the universe you're going to attract crisis.
Interesting that we have the word blind spot out here, and we might need to create a distinction. Both are valid, but when I look back over blind spots, those are things that I didn't know to be there. I would work and explore and seek them out. And in the moment of spotting it, I would be able to see or recognize a blind spot in and around my business. But I don't think it was bouncing around and I just ignored it. Or maybe it was, but I think there need to be a distinction between blind spots and symptoms in the business. And the symptoms that we ignore, typically the ones that we don't necessarily like doing ourselves, we prefer to delegate those. So regardless of what it was or what label we give to it, a blind spot or a symptom, we have things going on in our business that are almost like inviting us, holding out an olive branch, maybe in the beginning, to get us curious enough to respect it, to explore it, to honor it.
Yes, no doubt. And that was a huge blessing and a lesson as, yes, I delegated that task off to others who, didn't quite take care of it like the owner.
Were they?
There was a piece of that as well happening. There was all kinds of misinformation going on, and it was because I was not on top of my stuff. As an entrepreneur, it's not just about serving your patients or serving your clients. It's about also understanding what's going on behind the scenes and with your finances and the ins and the outs, and understanding your budget and your profit and loss statements, and really being on top of every single that. And I was not at that time. Yeah. And I will say now, every penny that goes in and out, I'm on it, and it filled those gaps. And it was such a beautiful lesson. I was, at the time, when I got back home, I discovered I was about $300,000 in debt. And so I took a breath and I stepped back with some of the knowledge that I have about how to process and balance emotions. I just ask, okay, how does this serve me? How can I actually capitalize on what's happening? What systems can I now put in place to make sure this doesn't happen again? Mm-hmm. How can whatever happens to me now is going to help me grow me even better? So by being able to have those quality questions during that chaos, I was able to stay poised and certain and come up with a plan of how I can go through this, because there wasn't any other option besides, hey, I just got to knuckle down, got to find out the solutions. Let's learn from this and let's put in these systems and let's grow. And within about a year and a half, we were able to pay off the entire debt. The whole $300,000 was gone. And we had solid systems in place with solid people in place. I was really on top of it as a leader at that point. It was such a huge lesson for me as a leader to be able to go through that experience over that year and a half.
I bet it was. Now, you said something that I just want to take a moment and create some space around, because you got punched in the face by Tyson and your response was, I'm going to take a breath, I'm going to make a plan, and I'm going to figure my way out. And I think that is one extraordinary response, and it's evidence of a heart and soul-based conviction and investment in your vision. And I am also aware that there are a number of business people who at one point or another during their business will have different responses. And the ones that I've seen, three probably more than anything else, is, well, of course, the one that you just shared with us, Dr. Dave, but the second one would be, I just got punched in the face. Clearly what I'm doing or how I'm going about doing things isn't working. So I'm going to regroup and figure out another way of going about it. I'm not going to quit. I'm just going to either rest, collect my thoughts, maybe take a nap, and explore a different vehicle with which to achieve the same outcome. And then the third one is, I get punched in the face and I'm like, well, forget this. I'm out. There's too much effort, too much work, not that bothered anyway. And I think the three different positions are really interesting and telling about whether a person is doing this because they think they should do it in the absence of something that's more meaningful to them, or whether they're pursuing this because it is their heart song, their vision, their purpose. I think it was Tyson actually who said, everybody has a plan. until they get punched in the face. So we all know what it's like to be knocked out, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think the major thing for me, and I think and I've shared this over the years with my clients who are entrepreneurs that go through similar situations, is it gives you an opportunity to really step back and refocus on your mission, on your purpose, and just ask yourself, is what I'm doing aligned with my mission and purpose? And it gave me an opportunity to really clarify why I'm here, what I want to do. And I just know that when I got real clear on my purpose and I got real clear on the mission, and I saw how this was actually serving me to actually redefine and refine my mission and purpose, that catalyst set a fire inside of me. And I think it does with other people. When you're really connected to your big why, these obstacles are just learning opportunities. So you just go right through those things.
In contrast, then, there's this question that, does the rounds every couple of years, which is, how do you know when you should quit? And I'm talking about entrepreneurs only. I won't say that again. This isn't a business context. But, you start a business, there's grunt work, there's hard work. You put in the effort. And at what point does someone say, I need to walk away now because this isn't profitable, it isn't viable, it isn't working? I guess I'm just really aware of the language that you're using with regards to, I took a breath and I just knew there was no other option, versus other people that I've come in contact with who go, well, that's that then, let me go try something different. Versus, and this new idea I want to throw out there is, the form or the expression of my purpose is no longer in this particular way, but now I'm going to transform it so that the expression of my purpose looks this way, but it's still the same purpose. So 3 different buckets. One is, Dr. Dave, I took a breath. I was in the ring with Mike Tyson. I got punched in the face. I took a breath. And in that moment, I was like, I'm getting up. There is no other choice but to stand in that ring with Tyson. Then the second, position is, I got punched in the face, which is, by the way, when all of us figure out who we really are in life.
Yeah.
And I realized that I needed to iterate or refine what I was bringing as this vehicle of my purpose. And then this third one is, I'm not connected to my purpose. I don't know what it is yet. And every time I hit not just an obstacle, when I get punched in the face, I'm going to go to India for a year and just, think about it.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm hearing in this exchange is those 3 different positions. Dr. Dave is deeply connected to his purpose. And when he gets punched in the face through a few rounds of Tyson in the ring, he takes a breath and he figures a way through it. There are moments where you get punched in the face and you need to reconsider whether you're doing an online business, an in-person business, or maybe a different form of that purpose. And then the third one is, go find your purpose. Go get connected to something. Bukowski says, I was just telling my dad last night, Charles Bukowski says, find what you love and then let that kill you. So
beautiful.
Clearly you're connected to this purpose and what you're creating in your life. And there's evidence to demonstrate that. So, you're in the ring with Tyson, you got punched out, you took a breath and you just figured it out. There's a mindset that comes with being able to take the ups and downs. And I think there's people listening right now that are reflecting on their own loss, their own $300,000 debt, and maybe not as light and comical with it as you are right now. So tell me a bit about that. Tell me, why is this story almost like a joke for you that you share as party pieces, when some people, this is maybe a story they would never want to be made public?
Yeah. Well, I think, we attract these chaos moments, these confusion moments, and because there's something that we need to learn more about ourselves. And I no doubt when I look back on that, I can see where clearly off of my purpose. I was off of my vision of what I wanted to go with my businesses. And so this was a huge wake-up call, because it really forced me to get clear about what I want to do and all the components that are required for me to learn to be successful. Meaning, you got to be on top of every part of your business. If you're the owner, you can't delegate that out to someone else if you don't know what you're doing. So I was really forced to learn each area of my business more.
I need to stop you right there. You said something that I think every business owner should have tattooed on their forehead. You do not get to delegate out an area of your business that you have not first mastered.
It's a crazy idea. I've tried it over the years and it doesn't work.
Oh, 99% of us do it. 99% of us delegate areas of our business we know nothing about, because we don't want to learn that part of the business. But that is a big takeaway. Big takeaway.
Yeah. So if you want to play in the bigger game, then you've got to go through and do that, because otherwise, when you delegate it to someone and you don't know the ins and outs of your own self, then you lose control. And now when you lose control in an area of your business, sooner or later, the universe is going to give you crisis, chaos, and confusion in that area. And you're going to have to go deal with that at some point. So as I work with entrepreneurs, this one of the things we talk about when you're building your business. You got to know every single business, every single part in and out before you can hire someone and train that to delegate, or it's going to come back to bite you. Tyson's going to knock you out.
Or in your case, hit you hard enough so that you just get up and take a breath and be like, right, I'm going to clean some shit up. I'm going to pay off $300,000 and I'm going to live to tell this wonderful story.
Yeah. I mean, I had a vision for not only my business, but as entrepreneurs, we do have a business, but we also have a life. You've got relationships, you got your health, you got your finances. So to me, it's all about, how does this event help me catalyze more success in every area? I was trying to create a relationship at that time. So it's like, wow, if I want to have a successful relationship, I got to get my stuff together in this part of my life. Otherwise, I won't be able to have that vision of a long life, and successful life, and have freedom and financial freedom and success. And that was a pivotal moment in my career. And I was so grateful that I was woken up in that time, because it changed my whole life, that moment. I haven't looked back, and we haven't obviously been in that situation again. And we're not going to, because we know now what that's like. I know the symptoms that my business gives me when we're off balance, So when you start having those
I think it's symptoms. So remember I was saying earlier, I go and look out for the blind spots, but that's why they're blind spots. I don't know that they're there, but I think you used the perfect word for it. Mm-hmm. Your business produces symptoms.
Yeah.
So your $300K opportunity that your accountant presented you with, if you look back in the year prior, there would have been symptoms visible in the business that you may not have been in tune with.
Right.
But they were there. They were ignored. They were overlooked for whatever reason.
Right.
Then it became acute, and then you took action to change it. So now you probably, I don't know, do you see symptoms in your business anymore? Or do you run a pretty clean machine?
No. Yes, symptoms are always there, because you always have ups and downs. But when you're really in tune with your business, it's just like with your body. When you're in tune with your body and you start having a symptom, when it's minor, you're going to pay attention to that and make tweaks. Your business is the same way. Your finances are the same way. Your relationship is the same way. You got symptoms in relationships, symptoms in your finances, symptoms in your business, symptoms in your health. Those are all just feedbacks that we're given to teach us to tweak what we were doing. And if we don't pay attention to those symptoms when they're small, we'll just let someone fix that, or let's just ignore that. You're going to just attract bigger and bigger symptoms, just like you do in your body.
Wow. Yeah. No.
Business,
exactly.
Your business is an entity. It's got its own DNA. It's got its own organs. It's got its own nervous system, and so you got to pay attention to that on just a fine-tuned note. And then you can really catch this stuff when it's early, and not wait till it blows up on you like $300,000 in debt, all of a sudden.
I love this. I think if I were to summarize the exchange that we just had, it was, I love the Tyson analogy, so I'm going to continue with it, but it's like you were dancing with crisis. Yes. You were dancing with crisis because it was part of you getting to your vision, as opposed to the individual who has no vision. A crisis emerges and there's no dancing available to him. It's just wiped out. And I think if we look at the insights that you shared with us about what it meant for you, it was, one is, do not delegate anything that you don't fully understand in your business. I've learned that lesson a few times. Two is pay attention to the symptoms before they become acute.
That's right. Yeah.
As opposed to the blind spots. And then I think that the other thing that I was taking away from your exchange was the certainty and the conviction with which you spoke whilst in the ring with Tyson. You just assumed that everybody would be like that. Well, there's no other choice. This is exactly what we do. And that is evidence of your vision, your business, your life being in complete alignment. So the final bit I would say is the alignment. How would you summarize this? And what do you want people to take away from this conversation?
I think one of the important points is when you're in that moment of crisis or chaos and you're feeling those symptoms, I think it's important to, like I said, take a breath, step back, but then you got to ask those quality questions, which I think was, when I look back, that was probably one of the keys to me, is being able to ask quality questions such as, hey, how is this going to serve me? How can I grow from this experience? How can I capitalize on what's happening? How is what's happening actually going to make me actually a better entrepreneur? And how is this what's happening me helping me clarify my purpose and mission? And when you can just step back and have poise to ask those questions, then you don't let it throw you off and get all emotional about it. You just get up and you just keep going, you know.
Yeah. Fair play to you. Dr. Dave, it's really great to have you on The Work That Matters today. Thank you for bringing us your story and your humor and your insights. I'm much obliged. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the topic. It was beautiful to remember this.
The Work That Matters podcast, it's brought to you by ShannonEastman.com.